Hey there, welcome to My Green Pets. I'm William Green. It's a lovely Saturday morning. The sun is finally really starting to come back, and the days are longer, and that means that my plants get to enjoy some natural sunlight for a couple hours each morning before the lights kick in, and that is definitely a nice time to show you guys around. So let's have a look and see what's going on. Really excited that my Bulbophyllum catenulatum seems to be adapting well to the repod. It's got, I've counted 4 different little spikes coming up on it. So excited about that. Wasn't sure if it had a specific blooming period. You can see one of the little spikes right here. See how teeny they are? But with any luck, those will keep growing up and bloom. And then next up we've got Bulbophyllum croceum, recently received. And you can see it's got some new growths on it as well, like right there. A lot of the bulbs have new growth on them. There's one kind of hiding down there. So that's also really nice to see. Hopefully those will get established and look nice soon. The Catacetums that were divided about a month ago are doing well. 5 of them have new growth. Largest one is this Signotes Wine Delight. You can see it's really starting to root well. I'm not watering this sphagnum at all. This is all fresh new sphagnum. These were potted in before they started rooting, and they will stay in that until those roots, hopefully we're going to see them popping out the bottom, and that's when I know I can start watering. Right next to it we have Desert Davison with the new growth poking out there. And then this Wine Delight, I don't want to knock things over, but there is a new growth on this guy. Yep, you can see it down there. And then both of the smaller Desert Davison divisions also have new growths pushing out of them too. You just have to take my word for it. So that's great. So the only ones I'm waiting on now is this really older back bulb Wine Delight division. This was the one I intended to keep. I was going to sell the other 2. So we'll see. Hopefully these old canes, bulbs have got a little bit of life, enough left in them to push out one last new growth. A couple Mormodias here. This is the Jumbo World, and then this is the division I took. And this one normally doesn't start growing till later anyway, so I'm not really looking for anything on it quite yet. Dendrobium Country Girl is showing off several new buds pushing out of these spikes. The rest of the canes are not looking like they're going to bloom, but I'm feeling like you never really know with these guys. But I have been struggling with finding mites, presumably spider mites, sometimes on the undersides of leaves. Sometimes last week I found them like actually on the buds, and not a lot of them, but they're on there. And if you know spider mites, if you see one, there's 100 more where that came from. So I actually am trying something new. Instead of chemical solutions, I actually got online and searched for predatory mites, and I ordered a vial of predatory mites that is supposed to be delivered in the next 2 weeks or so, and I'm gonna try them out. They're supposed to be really effective, and I just love the idea of little predatory mites, just little army sweeping over every plant in my collection, searching for eggs, nymphs, adult spider mites, broad mites, what are the rust mites or rust, something like that. But they're supposed to eat a bunch of different types of mites, and so I think it's going to be interesting. Cattleya maximus looking fantastic. I've had this plant for a year now. I got it last February, and this plant doesn't quite obey the rules in terms of when they're supposed to bloom. This one grew all through the winter, and put out several new bulbs, and now those bulbs have got sheaths on them, just kind of hanging out. And last year, when I got the plant, it had a sheath on it in February, and that sheath bloomed in July. So we might see the same thing from this guy this year, but really impressed with it. And probably need to repot it maybe after it blooms this year. Kind of a mess in there already. And then maybe divide it up and get rid of a couple pieces of it. Alright, the Cattleya rexes. It's the big chunk of my collection. Grew these guys from seedlings from a flask, and surprisingly some of the growths are quite far along. This guy started in early January, and look how big he is already. Now, unfortunately, the plants aren't getting 12 hours of light a day. They're getting more like 10 or 11. So for that reason, I don't think that this plant is going to be able to bloom off this new growth, just because it hasn't really been getting a lot of light during that time. But we'll see. I don't know. I know that the LEDs are pretty intense, and they may be getting more light than I think. But there are just lots of really nice new growths coming out. And if I find that they're not blooming the way that I would like, I'm going to assume it has to do with light, because in the wintertime I was doing some calculations of sunlight and artificial light, and you know, during the winter they only get like 9 hours a day of light. For the month of December, they get 9 hours of light, you know. And I did that because I wanted to get the Catacetums to bloom. I had some stubborn ones that weren't blooming, but in their native habitat, Cattleya rex gets 12 hours of light every day, all day, or every day of the year. They're right on the equator, and they get 12-hour days every day. So if I want ideal conditions for this species that I'm acting like I want to propagate and make more of, I probably should adjust my grow tent conditions to be as perfect for Cattleya rex as I can. And if that means that some of my plants don't like it because they're from places that need shorter days in the winter, then they'll have to go. Because this is a Cattleya rex project, as you guys well know. Okay, let's look at the divisions. Jesse Lee got divided last month too, and look at the roots. Roots are just doing great. Hopefully those are going to get really nicely established. Next to it, the Vandefalcata divisions also doing well. You can see new roots popping out on these guys. Pretty pink little roots. And then, talking about roots, Cattleya Jose Marti. This thing has an obscene amount of roots. I mean, look at this. It's crazy. Roots everywhere. I mean, I can see this tent just becoming a big, vast mesh of roots just everywhere. And I mean, it's great for the plants, but the bad thing is that you can't move them. Once they start putting out roots like that, you cannot move them. They just all break off. I mean, they'll grow back, but ugh. This Cattleya rex carried a pod, had a seed pod. I took the pod off last week and have started collecting seed off this one. This one had 2 pods. One of them came off about a month ago. I dried it, I took the seed, and I sent it to the lab last week. So we've got 3 pods. Hopefully we're going to have some viable seed coming out of those and get a new couple of crosses, SIB crosses of Cattleya rex going in the lab. This little Dendrobium nobile, no ID. This is the reason that I got those predatory mites. This thing is an absolute magnet. I sprayed it in a neem oil, Week later, more mites on it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try something different. Because the neem oil, it kind of affects the root growth. You can see that root looks like it's kind of stopped. And it's kind of right in its growth mode, putting out that new little growth, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of predatory mites right on this guy, and hopefully they will eat everything. That is the hope. Phalaenopsis schilleriana has been repotted. I took it out. I showed on Instagram this week. I did a repot on this guy. Just took it out of the pot. It was in sphagnum. Just checking out the roots. It has this new keiki on it. It actually has another keiki on the other side that I found when I unpotted it. And it has actively growing roots. So I don't know if it's... I don't know. But it's... Dare I say it looks better? But that's all. That's as far as I can go. I don't know. This leaf is starting to kind of take on that pink cast, and that has, in the past year, when they get pink like that, that means that whatever is attacking them is winning, and they're about to lose that leaf. But I don't know. Like I said a few weeks ago, I really like how even though the tip of the leaf died, whatever was taking out the tip of that leaf, it stopped. But you can see there is significant pitting. So, don't know. Doing our best with this guy. Cattleyas seedlings are doing okay. No big changes to report. I'm eager to have the predatory mites on the seedlings as well. These little guys are just super cute. Really, this one's rooting really well, actually. See how tiny they are. And then this guy on the side here, he's got really good roots, and one has actually sprouted a branch. And then this one is growing down and kind of invading this guy's territory. So that's nice. Last week I was saying that I don't think that these roots will attach to this bone. But then after I said that, I saw this one. And it, well, no. No, see, they grow up against it, but they can't stick to it. So it's okay, the plant will still grow, the roots will just hang down, I guess. But I'm just more and more convinced that growing these guys mounted, even from the seedling stage, is just it's the best way, I think. You just avoid all of the root issues that you get with medium. Heading down to the lower levels here. We got my paths. I'm just doing what I think you're supposed to do with paths, watering them thoroughly, letting them get almost dry, and then watering again. Hopefully we'll see some new root growth and new growth on these guys. This one did start to rot, but then the rot looks like it's stopping, but I've decided I'm just not going to do anything about it. Back here, this Phalaenopsis, really, really nice display coming out. Because it's on the bottom shelf, water does drip on the flowers, and I'm afraid that might cause some ugly spotting on those pristine white flowers, but it is what it is. So that guy's going to stay here underneath until it gets completely bloomed out. I think there's 9 flowers on it. And then once that's totally bloomed out and they're kind of fixed where they need to be, I'm going to fish it out of here, try to get it. It's kind of in a difficult spot, but I'm going to try to get it out of here without damaging the flowers, and maybe put it on my table or something so I can enjoy it. Really, when Phalaenopsis are allowed to just bloom and you don't move them, so that the flowers open naturally and they arrange themselves in just such a beautiful way, they are really tough to beat, especially white ones. Let's see, all my Bulbophyllum divisions are doing okay. You can see some new growths pushing out there. Very happy about that. Seem to be doing just fine in their red solo cups. And then down here we have some Diania Ophrydis cattail orchid divisions. A couple of them are already showing new growth. You can see little growths pushing out there. There's the big one, Big Mama. And it's got new growth pushing out. And once that new growth starts putting out roots, then it'll really start putting on size. And they should be blooming around the time of the auction, about May or so. So if you didn't know, a lot of these divisions, all of these divisions hopefully will be up for auction in late May, probably last week of May, tentatively. And hopefully we raise some money for my Cattleya Rex order from Peru. I actually ordered another one. Orchideas amazonicas, also out of Peru. Has Cattleya Rex for sale. And they have adult blooming size plants for sale. I think they're $50 a piece. And if you contact them, you have to go to their website, you send them an email, and then they will send you the catalog as a PDF file. And then you can tell them what you want. And I think they're going to be bringing a new shipment in March, actually. So I might be having a new Cattleya Rex plant from Peru arriving as soon as March. I'm a little bit wary because, you know, one of the major pests of Cattleyas is scale. And I am very fortunate to say that at this time, I do not have any scale in my collection. I have 0 scale, 0 mealybugs, 0 aphids. I don't think I have thrips. I've looked and looked and looked and looked. I don't think I have thrips. I have spider mites and I have snails, but that's it. So, and we're working on both of those guys. So, oh, speaking of snails. A couple weeks ago, I submerged this Cattleya Rex in hydrogen peroxide. Filled this whole pot up full of it. That video on Instagram's got like 3,000 views now. People told me, some people said it's going to be fine. Some people said your plant is not going to like it. Okay, well, let's see what the plant is doing. So, first of all, new growth, continuing to grow out, seems to be fine. Okay, some old roots. Check this out. New growth all along the old roots. Several new root branches pushing out. We've got a little new root coming out over here. Right? And then over here as well. Look at this little bunch of new roots. So, bulbs. Look at the bulbs. Bulbs still plump. No significant wrinkling or anything indicating that the plant's not able to take up water. Back bulbs too, fairly smooth. Some wrinkles, but nothing super serious. So 2 weeks out, I think things look okay. Oh, check this out. Look at this little white, you see that little white circle down there? It's a mushroom. Why is there a mushroom growing in my plant 2 weeks after being soaked in hydrogen peroxide? Can anyone explain that? Unless the mycelium of the mushroom lives in dead tissue that was not affected by the hydrogen peroxide. But that actually annoys me, that there are mushrooms growing in my plant, because it means that something's infected somewhere. But anyway, hopefully we're going to see this plant bloom in June or July or August. Okay, guys, that is it. Wow, I really let this go on a little bit long today, but I hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed checking out my green pets. Hope you enjoyed this beautiful sunlight, this lovely day. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.